Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue on the ones and twos. Fam, I didn't put my makeup on. Am I okay? Am I too red?
Ma'am, you're always red.
I know. I got that little red rosy. Oh, there goes Pedro from the bleachers. Want to send a special shout out to Leo. Cute little Leo. The honorary Convo Couch dog of the month. Leo. You've seen him out there. Go follow Steve Cutler live.
Yes.
Lucky Burrito. Go like Leo's little post. Leo comes running to the screen when he hears the little llama going.
That's so cute.
So, fam, what did you think about this crazy week? We had a long week of shows, had some fun shows. We still had the interview with Matt Binder. The debate with Matt Binder. Yeah. He kind of talked about us on Majority Report. We'll get to that eventually. But a lot of things going on. So, your thoughts on a crazy, busy-ass week?
There's just not enough time in the day to do all the things we need to do and cover all the things we need to cover. So that's why we need everybody to cover it too, because we can't be the only ones. I think everybody's doing their part, but it's been crazy. And I think, I don't know. I've been having crazy dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, we had a show on Monday where we stopped halfway through the folder because we took so long. Yeah. Then on Wednesday, we did the Max Kaiser interview. If you haven't seen the Max Kaiser interview, guys, so freaking awesome. And it's important. These are questions. I think that, we're not 100% sold. I don't know. I can speak for myself. I'm not 100% sold that it's the final solution when it comes to cryptocurrencies, when it comes to Bitcoin, when it comes to Ethereum. However, I love the technology and what it can do, and I think you're there too as well. But I think Max had a great pitch. He was ready to talk about communism. He knew which show he was coming on. So your thoughts on what Max talked about, and do you think we should encourage people to get more involved with crypto?
I mean, I think, you know how people diversify their portfolio? I think people need to diversify their earnings, because you don't really know the fiat currency, the dollar isn't really stable anymore. It's not. And so I don't think it hurts. I think, like I said, it could be a potential way that working class could make money for a little bit. I don't think it's the ultimate final solution. And I have a hard time understanding economic theory from a capitalist perspective, because for me, capitalism is a problem. Capitalism is what leads to imperialism, because now that's why it's the highest form, because you're already conquering. You're trying to conquer land now and amass resources, because that's how far the empire has gotten. So for me, it could still work in a different system. There are different ways of bartering, or having different currencies. But again, in this system right now, the wealthy will always come out on top one way or another, the wealthy, the powerful. So I'm still not 100% convinced that it's that foolproof. If the 1%, the predator class, wants to end something, they will find a way. So,
yeah, I mean, I got some compliments from some of my friends that were like, hey, man, I really liked your whole thing about the isms, because they understood where I'm coming from. Right. And I always say, I don't have the answer, right? I do have this kind of like deep kind of communist kind of feeling inside me that we are one people, one planet, right? All living things. We have a limited amount of resources. The whole situation where capitalism has made the uber rich, take so many of the resources and control them is frightening. You know what I'm saying? However, then when we come into the situation and we talk about choices, right? Like I always say, like a lot of people always say that capitalism is supposed to be about choices.
Yeah, but that's like the misinterpretation of what communism is. The whole thing is like, oh, look, in Cuba, they only have one brand of beans, and like that means you don't have a choice. But actually, capitalism kills creativity, because a lot of people go into work to something they don't want to do because they have to make money. Whereas the whole idea of living in a society where you can do whatever it is you want to do because money isn't the main thing. Yeah. That's the thing. It's a different concept, and I'd love to have like other people that could explain it better to you. But for me, that's what it is. It's like this whole misnomer of like saying you lack choices. I think where humanity is, there are steps. I don't think you can just go from one thing to another. There's definitely a process that's going to have to happen, because people aren't there yet. People have a really hard time conceiving what that would be like. And so many times it's been attempted. It's failed because of the West and a lot of the empire, and also because of innate human greed. Any system that you have is corruptible because power corrupts, right?
Exactly. That's why they're going to need a purist like me just to run the world so I can make sure everything's nice and friendly because I wouldn't let power get to my head, guys. I don't do that stuff. Like, I stay grounded. Let's, before we get deeper into this conversation, let's say hello to our loved ones and our friends, people who keep this show rolling. I want to spend a special shout out to all our friends on the MCSE network. Mindy Moneybags, a la Misty, I love her. Her and Jesse Zerwell did a show with Alex Rubenstein the other day. Really good. So we're going to kind of start off the show, too, talking a little bit about China, and whatnot. But they had a really great show, and I want to send love to them. I believe that Niko is going on with Garland Nixon tonight, so that's going to be great. Glory Steve, want to send my love to them, too, as well. Allie, the whole crew. Frank Analysis is now known as Stank Analysis. TB's calling him Stank Analysis. I mean, that's funny, though. You got to laugh, at least. Just love. Who am I missing anybody from the crew? Oh, Sky Daddy. What's up, Sky? Hit me up. Anyways, let's get rolling on this one. Trey Wright says, sending love to Jolly P, Sexy Fee, and Jonny Tsunami. I'm Jolly P? Is that what you're calling me, Trey? Jolly P?
Pasta.
Jolly P, Sexy Fee.
Ow.
And Jonny Tsunami. Here.
Abuse.
He's horny. Here, hold this. Also, Bethlehem Tessa Faye. Where the hell you been, Bethlehem Tessa Faye? Thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is always
you know better, Bethlehem.
Yes, Bethlehem. Do it again, and I'll do it louder. In fact, I'm gonna from now on, when you don't leave a something written, and I do the always appreciate on the couch, the size of the donation will depend on the always appreciate on the couch. So if you leave a twomp, I'm gonna just bust Fiorella's ears out.
God, I
will
it's always
hate appreciated you
for the rest of my life.
Mad Wolf is here too. This is kind of cool when you have a show and like our peeps that haven't been around for a while come jumping on in. Mad Wolf, thank you so much. Great to see you again. I'm trying to get as much into Bitcoin before making an investment. So yes, please, more Bitcoin talk and info. And listen, we're not experts on it. I think Johnny is probably knows the most in the household. He watches a lot of videos on it and stuff. We follow a lot of people. We talk about it.
A Johnny video Bitcoin episode.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing, too. We're a unique kind of group over here because we are election integrity activists, right? So we know what the blockchain can do, a blockchain for tabulation, how it can solidify elections and get this cheating out of the woodwork. Don't get me wrong. There's other areas we have to concentrate on, but the tabulation machines, we have an open source blockchain fucking system, and baby, things will get great. Fam, somebody here wants to give a message directly to you. Orale, fam. I moved away from the microphone. I gained a whole lot of respect for Max Blumenthal today. Maybe contact him for a Rokfin exclusive on vax mandates and passports. Love y'all to the pinchy death homes.
I thought about that, actually. So, yeah, we'll see if we can make that happen, because I think that'd be great to talk to a fellow, there's very few of us guys really speaking out. A fellow anti-authoritarian or real anti-imperialist, because there's very, very few people that have the guts to talk about these things.
And Shadowban Refugee says, by the way, still going through that bill. Crazy busy, sorry. Shadowban, we got to get up on it. We got to talk infrastructure. You're going to be my guy. You're my go-to. You had a great show on that stuff. You got such great feedback. People loved you. They loved your beard. They loved your attitude. They loved your energy. So let's get with it. Roar Media says, happy birthday to Timmy B.
Really?
Thank you, Roar Media. Timmy B.
Tim Black?
Oh, Jesus, Christmas. I didn't even know that. Stop that shit, Oz. Put those overalls on and be quiet over there. Don't get us in trouble anymore. Hashtag at BX Comedy. I give it a Super Ray contribution. Capitalism prioritizes profit maximization when distributing resources. Under communism, resources are distributed based on human and societal need. You're absolutely right, and that's the most intriguing thing about communism when it comes to me. We are only one planet. We have a limited amount of resources. Capitalism has shown that the wealthy and the ones on the top, the predator class, the predatory elitist class, whatever you want to call them, can sop up all these resources and leave us hanging left and right. And also, too, once again, when we talk about any of the isms, the whole fact that they're trying in this system to not let us collect rainwater, to not let us grow our own food. They don't want us to be self-sufficient.
Right. And that can happen in any system. That's why we can talk about that another time, but there's so much that goes into that. All right, fam, let's get started.
All right, want to say hi and love to the people on the YouTubes. We have 100 plus people watching. Like, share, subscribe. Yep. Let's get into it, fam. Okay. this was kind of a little touch-up really quick. I didn't want to go into it too deeply, but it is something to pay attention to. And a lot of people have different opinions on what's going on in China, what the role is. Of course, you'll hear a lot of patriots, today's patriots, say that, oh, no, this is just smoke and mirrors. Biden is just like, he's in the pocket of the Chinese, and this is all just to make him look like he's, being hostile towards them for cover. However, I think it's a bigger point right here that no matter who's in charge, these geopolitical Cold Wars keep going.
Exactly.
Now, it seems like the United States has moved away from Hong Kong. It seems like Beijing has got control of that whole situation. They threw the NED out of there. All the NGOs are out of there. Beijing has pretty much got its grip and take care of Hong Kong. So now we set our sights on Taiwan. And this article from the Global Times, and this was in Newsweek too as well, so there hasn't been a lot of talk on the mainstream media, but there has been some. It says, U.S. Taiwan crossing the red line will create historic opportunity for PLA fighter jets to fly over the island. Global Times editorial. And, we've been talking about this situation, fam. We talked about it a couple months ago, about a month and a half ago, the way the United States has been selling weapons to Taiwan, right, to push a wedge in between Beijing and Taiwan, just like they did with Hong Kong. So, something interesting happened the other day. This happened on Wednesday. So, I'm going to read the first couple paragraphs. On Wednesday, the White House announced that U.S. President Joe Biden will bring together leaders from a diverse group of world's democracies at a virtual summit for democracy to be followed in roughly a year's time by a second in-person summit. So, what he's trying to do is he's trying to create the summit for these are the people for democracy and these are the people against democracy. So that Russia's not going to be invited. That Iran's not going to be invited. That China's not going to be invited. But what the United States is trying to do is going, hey, Taiwan, you come to this virtual summit. And it's going to cause a wedge in between Beijing and Taiwan right now because that's the whole thing that they're jockeying for. Does Taiwan have the ability to stay separate from China? Hong Kong did not. China has always told the United States, don't meddle in our affairs. Okay, this is a one country here. Taiwan is a part of it, and don't get involved in our business. It also says that the summit will take place on December 9th and 10th. Analysts from the media outlets suggest that this is another move by the Biden administration to counter China.
No shit.
The summit classifies countries across the world into democratic and non-democratic or authoritarian groups, fam.
Right.
This drawing of lines will definitely divide the world, and that's what it's going to do.
The world is divided.
Boom. Many countries, including Russia, have a Western-style multi-party system, but are frequently labeled as authoritarian countries by some Western media outlets. By most Western media outlets.
Yeah, let's be honest.
So are some U.S. allies, such as Turkey, Saudi Arabia. So it should be especially be excluded from the Democratic camp. Fam,
They're
this
not.
is exactly. That's sorry.
They're not.
They're going to be invited.
Yeah.
And the last part I want to read is just a little bit down the way because I just wanted to talk about it. We warn Washington and the island's so-called democracy is not an excuse to safely push Taiwan independence. If Washington creates a scene in which Tsai attends, that's the president over there or the leader of Taiwan, the meeting with leaders of the U.S. and other countries, it is publicly recognized the island's status as a country. Break the political status quo of the Taiwan Straits from the outside. Beijing will have no choice but to take resolute measures. There will be a decisive counterattack to defend the one China principle. So China's already saying, dude, don't do this shit. Don't get started over here. Now you're having this summit and you want to invite Taiwan by leaving Taiwan on one side and us on the other?
Yeah.
Fam?
It's just very obvious. And Biden has always been anti-China. I don't understand why the right likes to pretend he's anything but that. He has been very transparent in how he has been in his feelings towards China and how they're not a democracy and how they're communists. That's where the neocons and the neoliberals shake hands, is when it comes to China. Yeah. So to me, it's ridiculous. This proves once again that the whole, left, right, Democrat versus Republican, at the end of the day, the geopolitics is the same.
Yeah, and you know what? I've been watching, there was one of our followers, Mandy, who sent me some stuff from James Corbett talking about the Chinese relationship. And it's very, very interesting. It's very intriguing on what the relationship is really supposed to be about. It started back, they started looking at when Kissinger went there for Nixon. And there's a lot of people who believe that there's this kind of backdoor, behind-the-scenes type of relationship, on how to control things, where they look like they're opposing sides, but yet they're still somewhat working together behind the scenes. I don't know how I feel about that. It is definitely intriguing. It was very kind of weird the way the United States made a deal with China to send all our manufacturing over there. Everybody was a part of it. It crushed the workforce here in America, sent it over to China, but it allowed China to really build itself up as a country. So it is very interesting, something to pay attention to. But at the end of the day, the geopolitics, it's imperialism, American imperialism, and going and putting a wedge in things is bullshit. So, also, the U.S. Senate passes a bill to help Taiwan regain WHO status, and this is another thing that really pissed China off. They're like, "What the hell is America doing?" They're trying to put a wedge between Taiwan and China, just like they did. They lost in Hong Kong. Let's make it clear: America lost the battle in Hong Kong, right? They did. They're out of there. The NED's out of there. All the NGOs have been thrown out. Beijing has gone in there. They've thrown anybody out of there. Anybody who messes with their sovereignty, they've thrown them out. So they lost Hong Kong. Now they're concentrating on trying to keep Taiwan in place as an American Western ally, which was all territory given during the Opium Wars anyways. So this is from the article right here. It says, Washington, August 6, Reuters. The U.S. Senate passed a bill late on Thursday calling on the State Department to submit a plan to help Taiwan regain its observer status at the World Health Organization, one of several U.S. bids to boost Taiwan as it faces pressure from Beijing. Taiwan is excluded from most global organizations such as the WHO, the UN Health Agency, because of the objections of China, which considers the island one of its provinces and not a separate country. The legislation, passed by unanimous consent, was sponsored by Senators Bob Menendez, the Democratic chairman on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and Jim Inhofe, the top Republican on Senate Armed Services Committee. Now, like you said, fam, when it comes to geopolitics, here we go. They're buddy-buddy. It doesn't make a difference who's in office, Republican or Democrat. When it comes to the empire, when it comes to imperialism, we're hand in hand.
Exactly. Well, that's something new to watch in China.
Just a little kind of dip in there. This is all new stuff that happened yesterday. This can increase a lot of tensions over there. Once again, Taiwan has a lot of American weapons. This whole summit thing is it's gonna actually, if Taiwan participates in this summit, they're literally going to be spitting in the face of Beijing, saying, we don't care, we're our own country, and that's it. And that's why China never lets them and always objects to them joining any other thing. It's like, no, you're part of China. You'll do what we say, you'll do what we do. And as we go along now China's a superpower, right? China's in the best position they've ever been, military, economically, you know what I'm saying? They have a lot of people in the country that support them because they've raised a lot of people out of poverty. Danny Haifong talks about it. I text Danny Haifong about the whole situation. And he even said, let me read his comment directly to me. He says, the Cold War continues, and Biden is no different than Trump in stomping a long-held agreements about China's role in global diplomacy. So there's right from Danny Haifong, whatnot. It doesn't make a difference who's running shit. Imperialism still goes. So.
Yep. So
small little section.
Yeah. So I think we should just go to the next section and then we can read the super chats because Black has time to come in.
Sure. Yeah, you want to do that? I'll read the super raise and we'll just bring him right in.
Yeah. Well, then we'll have him for that section too. Yeah.
By the way, Frederick Murphy and Steve Wolbrand are hanging out on the YouTubes. How you guys doing? Get on over to the Rokfin, Rokfim. Matt J is there. Popeye Sailor, all our old school people. Jilly Love, always watching, moderating for us. Trigger Hippie, 24/7. Free Thinker, 59. Lucky Burrito, he's there as well. Thank you guys. Guys, hit the like, hit the share. Go over to Rokfin if you can. Rokfin. We had over 200 watchers yesterday, fam. It was awesome. Now we have no offense. Happy Friday the 13th.
I know, right? Friday the 13th.
What's your favorite horror scary movie out there, guys? We watched Sinister the other day. And that shit was creepy as shit. I don't like horror movies. I think they're stupid, but they still scare me because I'm a wuss, and I get scared when it gets dark. By the way, Reeve Barker, thank you for the Super 8 contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch.
I think the demonic ones are the most, weird.
What is your favorite horror one out there? The Exorcist? That's
hilarious. The Exorcist is funny. It's hilarious.
The Exorcist used to scare me. I was growing up as a Catholic kid.
I love Halloween, though.
Halloween the movie?
No. I love I love Halloween
Michael
in general.
Myers?
I love everything. Scary, thriller, suspense, all that stuff.
See, Michael Myers and Jason from Friday the 13th didn't scare me as much as The Exorcist and Freddy Krueger did. Because Freddy Krueger's like, he gets you in your dream. He's like a demon of sorts, right? Or he's taking on this demon form.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, Sinister scared the hell out of me. Fucking Bagul, coming for that ass.
Johnny says Babadook is scary, so I gotta see that.
Babadook. We talked about this. All demons or names begin with B. Babadook, Bagul.
I'll keep that in mind the next time I'm doing the Ouija board.
Fam, if you bring a Ouija board in this house, I will. What about Paranormal Activity? That was
that was pretty.
I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And what did he do? They brought the goddamn fucking Ouija board in the house when he said, "Don't bring the Ouija board in the house."
Yeah, I don't know. When I moved into a new house once, there was a Ouija board there, and I was excited, and I took it out, and my parents threw it out. They didn't want me to keep it.
Because you would like that stupid stuff. You love doing that stuff.
That's because I do it, and it works.
No, it doesn't.
You never want to be around when I do it. You don't understand. I talk to people.
All right, guys. We got 163 people on the YouTubes. It is climbing. Caden Rodriguez just walked in the door with Free Thinker.
I should do a show where I talk about all the supernatural crap that happens to me.
Lucky Burrito likes scary stuff.
Lucky Burrito, you and I need to talk. That'll be a what is it, like a Rokfin premium, just so people don't think I'm
no
crazy.
Ouija boards in the house. Somebody agree with me. 0 Ouija boards. And first of all, you can't use a Ouija board from Parker Brothers or Hasbro from a gaming
It's
company.
not about the board. It's about the person.
No, you are wrong. You need to have a real Ouija board that has been blessed or whatever, or by a warlock or a witch. Gotta
How
make
do you
sure
not
real.
know? How do you?
I'm from Amityville, Long Island, fam. I know these things.
It doesn't mean anything, Pasta. You sound like Cuomo. Just because I'm Italian. Not perverted. I'm Italian.
What do y'all think about that? About that, guys?
Technically, any person from Latino culture is like that.
Yeah.
It encompasses so many different cultures.
What happened to you?
Oh, I'm not touchy-feely enough?
No. At all.
You don't know that. Yeah, it depends on who I'm with.
Well, I'm like that with everybody. You know what I'm saying?
No.
When you go in for a hug with Fee, you got to go in the one arm hug like this way. Don't go in like this. You got to go in sideways for Fee.
I like my personal space. I don't know what's wrong with that.
Hey, personal space.
This show is revealing too much right now. So
accidental activist Shanda, what's up? Says sorry, Pasta. Fee is right. What is Fee?
What am I right about?
What is she right about?
Or we can do that one last, Johnny, if you want, so we can get right into the nitty gritty. Is he here? Oh, okay.
You have to say nitty gritty, right?
What?
Okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty.
Fam, I'm not.
How do you guys? Yes or no? Does everybody not agree, or do you agree that Nacho Libre is the best movie out there?
Johnny and Pasta watch Nacho Libre nonstop, and I don't like Jack Black, so then they just keep playing that shit over and over again. It's
what? What did you say?
Pasta identifies with Nacho
say it again.
So much.
Say it in my face.
And if you watch the movie, you can see why. That's all I gotta say about that.
Fam. Behind the clothes, we see a man. And behind the man, we see his nucleus.
So we're about to have Black. Stop, Johnny! Oh my God! So we're about to have Black in the Empire, and one of the reasons we're gonna have him on is because his tweets are fire.
The most fire-ish tweets.
I mean, 1, 2. Just talking to him and seeing where his head's at, it's it's crazy to see that there are other people who share our mindset and who are where we are. Because like I said, even with the whole, Max Blumenthal doing a vaccine mandate thing, it's so rare to find people that are willing to go against the grain, not just because they want to be edgy, which is what our haters claim, but because it's the truth. You're operating from a place of truth, and whether that is beneficial to your brand or whatever the fuck you want it to be, you're going to talk about these things because these things are important. And one of the things that we've talked about here on the couch is Fred Hampton, and we've talked about the Black Panthers and how much we love where they were coming from and the Rainbow Coalition. And watching some of this footage that Jonny found from the Chicago Film Archives, the Chicago Film Archives, is insane because a lot of people on the left today, right, pat themselves on the back and they're like, I'm anti-fascist, I'm authoritarian, I'm an anti-imperialist. But when it comes down to it, they're not. They're pretty much liberals. And that's an unfortunate part of the left in America. It's a very weak coalition. And while I believe we need to break that whole left-right paradigm in terms of the working class, because the working class is going to have right-wingers, it's going to have libertarians, it's going to have non-political people, that concept was very much reflected in the Rainbow Coalition. Now, people like to say, well, they weren't working with white supremacists. Well, not technically. They weren't working with like a Klan member necessarily. Not all of them. I mean, Reverend Annie Chambers talks about shutting down the street, but Oh, okay. All right. So,
quick couple minute break.
Couple minutes, and we'll be right back and finish the conversation.
Yes. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Pasta Jardula here, Fiorella and Jonny Sue. And fam, we have a great guest today.
We have Daryl, better known as Black in the Empire on Twitter. What's up, Daryl?
How you doing?
Great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on with us. We had to get you on. Your tweets were so damn fire, man.
I know. I enjoyed it when Fiorella had said that in another one of your streams.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I was saying before, it's great to have another person that is right where we are mentally And, it's not like we've had conversations outside of Twitter really that much. So it's just, it's interesting to see that there's this consciousness that we're all, moving through this process together. And we wanted to bring you in here to discuss a plethora of things. But among them, is the way we look at what the left today is a very sad state of affairs in America. Basically, the vast majority of them are liberals, and they are pretty much helping perpetuate the system that they say they're against. They're running interference for politicians. They are pushing incremental change versus direct action and actual, people movements that will actually push electoral change. And there's this whole denial and in this whole hatred for anybody that wants to work across political ideology, which in America could easily change because people are so beaten and downtrodden. And they the working class includes people who may be a Trump supporter, who may have been a Hillary supporter, who may have not ever voted. That's the working class. And so when you talk about these things and when you tweet some of the things you do, I think you understand that concept. So, Jonny, did you want to start with the video? Where did you want to start?
Jonny left you.
Everything's crashing right now.
Oh shit.
The computer's really slow. 1 second.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm getting the rainbow of death.
Yeah, I can see that rainbow with
death.
That's this question.
All right. Sure. So go ahead.
All right. Well, please tell us about your journey and how you became aware of the empire and how you end up tweeting so loudly on Twitter. All your tweets that we like when we start sharing them around the house, you see what Black and the Empire tweeted, it's like fire. So give us a little insight to your journey and how you paid so much attention to the empire itself.
Well, I guess for me it started with again, I guess I'll start it this way. I grew up in the projects in Queens. I won't say I was a bad kid, but I would run into problems. But my mother eventually was going to get married, and she told me something along the lines of, I don't know where you're going to live because I'm getting married. So I wound up joining the Air Force.
Wow.
I would say it wasn't out of any duty to the United States. I just needed a job, and I figured I could get some money for college, and things would be great. I would say here, when I went in, I was actually kind of still believing in the whole America is, trying to do good around the world and all of the things that we taught. I was, believing, I was Black, so you vote Democrat, all of that kind of stuff. But when I went in, I got a job. It was called technical controller then, but I'm not sure what they call it now. So basically, I wanted with a job where I could see all communications going back and forth that were supposed to be encrypted. And I got a chance to see the empire operate for real,
Yeah.
And, it was quite disturbing to say the least. And I wound up eventually getting out, with all of that in my mind. So that's when I really, I guess, began to understand how America really works.
Yeah.
So when I got out, I wound up going back to my projects to visit some friends. This was during maybe 94-ish, 95 in that area. And that's when I discovered what the Democrats really were. Because when I got back home, my projects was devastated, and I didn't understand exactly what had happened. I figured the Democrats in office, what's happening here? Crack was rampant, everything was going crazy. And most of the men were in prison. It was ridiculous. So what happens then is, that's when I started figuring out, I guess my awakening comes that maybe the Democrats aren't our friends either. So that's when I discovered, what Clinton and Biden had done. They had devised the devious plan of the crime bill, and I realized that Biden had done the 100-to-1 crack laws. Everything was directed at the Black community. And a lot of people know that, but they don't really understand like how insidious what they did was. Because when I went home, I mean, the people that were in prison, they couldn't come back home because if you had a felony, if you lived in public housing, you can't even come back to your family. They took away food stamps. So the people who got out of prison, they had no way to get anything to eat. So of course, where are they going to go? Right back to crime, right back to prison. It was really terrible. And, so I kind of got my awakening that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy because, like, I think I had a very similar situation when I would join the Navy and I was in a submarine and I was sleeping on a torpedo rack and I was realizing, like, what a lot of those missiles and what those torpedoes and everything they can do. And it was like, I had that moment where I'm like, holy shit, maybe we aren't like the Captain Americas of the world. Maybe we're kind of pushing this kind of shit. And it was during Clinton when he was in there, so I had a really kind of different look on life when I got out, and that same kind of journey that you had, it kind of happened to me. I got shocked because I was a registered Democrat my whole life, thought they were the good guys, thought those, the Republicans were just racist bad guys. So it's kind of crazy on that whole journey. But yeah, anyways, you want to ask number 2?
Yeah, so you mentioned Biden and Clinton as the figures that showed you the Democrats were trash, but what about any political figures or people in history that you admired and that woke you up?
I admired, Malcolm X, I admired Martin Luther King, the Panthers, Fred Hampton. I kind of want to try to, I guess my politics is more towards the Malcolm X and the Fred Hampton, style of politics. I believe that really we have to unite. I mean, the left is never, at least not in my lifetime, is never going to grow to the size to where we'll be able to challenge empire. We have to be able to unite with other working class people. I mean, what choice do we have? If you have a different ideology, I mean, if we can find common ground on something, why can't we work on that?
Yeah.
100%. I mean, especially as if you're a person of color that's willing to do that, right? Because it's coming. A lot of the chastising for us is coming from people who are these type of what we were warned about, the white moderate, that are like, no, like you can't talk to that person. And it's like, well, why not? Like, I'm willing to talk to a libertarian and see, hey, we might not agree on, capitalism, but we might agree on, say, war. We might agree on fighting against the 1% or the predator class. And I think in the situation we're in right now, as you can see, with the mandates and just the wealth inequality and the lack of health care, all of this and the corruption within the progressive movement, there's an encroaching fascism, right? The surveillance state is just continuously watching us, is continuously censoring us and censoring voices of truth. So we kind of have to fight that battle now against the empire before we can even argue semantics of ideology and where we stand on the left-right paradigm. So that's, I think, where we kind of agree. I don't know, what, like, because you've seen a lot of the arguments on Twitter, right? For example, when we interviewed Boogaloo Boy, Magnus Pamvidia, we got a lot of pushback when Jimmy Dore interviewed him as well. This whole idea that anybody that deviates from the norm is somehow evil. What do you think about that? Like these other militia groups, whether they're Black Panthers, whether they're Black Lives Matter 757 or a Boogaloo Boy, what do you think of all of that?
I don't know. For me, there's a lot of like disingenuous arguments being made. I mean, as far as Magnus goes, I mean, if you can look at Magnus and think that Magnus is some kind of crazed white supremacist, then I really don't know what you're looking at. And as far as the Boogaloo Boys go, I don't know a lot about the Boogaloo Boys. I know that even Magnus admitted that there were white supremacist elements to the Boogaloo Boys. I didn't see that in him, and I even I think I tweeted something along the lines of I knew Black Panthers growing up, you know, and some Black Panthers were basically they didn't like white people. They would never have anything to do with white people. Some Black Panthers would work with white people. Just because you're in a group, I mean, you can't make a generalization like that. It's ridiculous. You know? Yeah. And I wanted to touch base on something too, as far as Fred Hampton goes, because I saw like when Jimmy Dore tried to bring up Fred Hampton as an example as to kind of like what his ideology was, like how he wanted to bring people together. You know, he would get attacks along the lines, and I think maybe Fiorella had said something about, you know, like these people weren't white supremacists. You know, I don't really understand what difference that made. You know, because Fred Hampton, I'll say it like this: I almost feel like by trying to attack Jimmy Dore because he was trying to bring people of different ideologies together, it has nothing to do with even having to be racist or anything like that.
Right.
But I almost feel like they were harming the legacy of Fred Hampton to attack Jimmy Dore.
Yeah.
Because it didn't really matter whether they were racist or not. For me personally, I think that it's ridiculous to say a bunch of white people came up from Appalachia during that time and nobody was a racist.
Yeah,
it's that's the point we were making, dude. That's the point. Like by today's standards, and is the video gonna play or? Okay, so Jonny has this whole thing because we were watching it last night from the Chicago archives on the YPO. Right, meeting with the Black Panthers and the whole interactions that happened, and we wanted to watch it with you because we want to see your reaction, because we were like, I mean, by today's standards, if we were there today, we would have dismissed the YPO. The left today would have dismissed the YPO as racist. They would have called them a fascist just by how where they were from and their emblems and all of that. That was the point we were trying to make. It's like the left today compares nothing to the left of back then. In fact, the left of back then was trying to work across lines and trying to bring people on class issues. Everything went back to class. Not to say that there's obviously not race issues, but a lot of the hatred comes from lack of education, from ignorance. And if you don't talk to people, that's going to stay there, right? And
I just want to also point it out, because Daryl, you pointed out something so important, because a lot of people don't realize this. You talked about the Black Panthers you knew. You knew there were some Black Panthers who didn't like white people, and there were some that were willing to work with white people. And that's, I think, what the YPO was, and it was back then. They would have those people, how to figure out how to work with these people, but staying united on class was important. And even Magnus has said he tries to root out anybody who's racist in his organization. He goes, if somebody said something racist or whatnot, let me know, and they're out of my group. You know what I'm saying? So there is that whole kind of way you have to go through that, and I think that a lot of Black Panthers went through that. I think a lot of YPO members went through that, and that's important to point out today, because at the end of the day, uniting on the class issue is more important, I think, at least.
Well,
or just as important.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I definitely agree that we have to unite on class issues, but I don't want to downplay the fact that we have to also deal with racial inequality.
Absolutely.
And the racial wealth gap as well. Because a lot of times, the reason I don't really label myself, I should just say I don't label myself, because for me personally, when I find myself saying I'm a left or I'm a this or any type of label, it almost takes away some of my independent thought. It becomes hard for me not to try to follow along with what other people are saying. So I just gave up the labels, But I just want to just point out that fact that we definitely want to also deal with the racial wealth gap.
Yeah. Do you think by fixing the class issue, it will be a big help to the racial issue? Because I think a lot of times when the empire has us, fighting over resources, that can pit people against each other. If we loosen that might help us come together.
No, we definitely. The way I look at it is we're going to have to deal with the class issue first. I don't even want to say first. I mean, that's very important. But the problem I have with a lot of leftists is I see that it's almost like they want to deal with the class issue, and that's it. And now everything is fine now. But once we deal with the class issue, I mean, the racial wealth disparity is still going to be there.
Yeah. 100%. It has to be both. And if you think about imperialism, right, and who is under the boot of the U.S. empire, the global South, doesn't have the same, even from the left, even socialists and communists, when they look at socialism or communism, their ideology, they always point to the Netherlands and Denmark and the Western nations. Well, how did those nations get to that point? By exploiting the resources of the global South, people of color, Native Americans, Africans, and the people in West Asia. And you can see that. You can see that reflected in the world. So I agree. I mean, I think it's definitely the class issue is, in a way, first. In a way, it will help a lot. But I think definitely there is an element, of course, of white supremacy and everything that has gone just because of the way things were done. I mean, I'm a product of imperialism. It's it's something you can't escape once you understand those things. Did you want to start? Did you want to say anything, Johnny?
Microphone.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
There we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
So let's watch the video.
Yeah, I got the video here. I just want to say I support reparations, and because of how the CIA and everything, how the CIA has really, gone into the neighborhoods and really introduced this culture. They introduced all the guns and the drugs and everything. Like, there's documented proof of that. And so, okay, so here's the video. This video basically is it's from the 1960s, the late 1960s, around 1968, 1969. Black Panther Bobby Lee went and spoke to the YPO, the Young Patriots organization. They were some white Appalachian from the north side of Chicago, and they were also facing police brutality and economic issues. And he went to their meeting. In this whole clip, we're not going to play the whole thing, but in this whole clip, he goes to the meeting. They start talking. They show the first time Bobby Lee was in that meeting. That was their first meeting, and how he was like, I'm there as a helper, as a supporter. You guys tell me where you need me. And then eventually they go to a city council meeting, and then they get a meeting with a community relations officer. So this is that meeting, and everybody talking about their issues with the police there. So
yeah, I'm a member of the Young Patriots, and I'm not going to run out a long line of particular harassments that have been thrown up against people, but just use one to clear up a point you made, which is probably the strongest point we've been talking about tonight. And that is, I've been in the house of Southern white people, and I've heard policemen, pardon me ladies, say, throw them up against the wall and say, you fucking hillbillies, what you got on you, and this kind of thing. And all I want to say is, when you talk about tolerance, we're not tolerating this, we're angry. 100 years ago, this flag, which I wear on my cap, represents the Confederate States of America. We was beat down, and we beat down people for 100 years, and we know what it's like to beat down people. And we beat down people hard. We all getting ourselves together, we're angry about it, because we're all beaten down today. And we're going to be out on the streets, and we'll be helping you if you want our help. And it's not the matter we communists, we this or that and the other. We're just folks who are trying to get things straight in our community. Is that clear?
Harold.
Yes.
Your thoughts on what you saw right there?
Oh, well, I actually couldn't see it, but but I heard it. I mean, that's exactly what we need. I'd actually seen that whole clip before. We got to have solidarity amongst everybody. The goal of empire is to keep people divided.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep people divided. Every issue, every event is an opportunity for them to have us at each other's throats. Whether it's the pandemic, whether it was Trump, I mean everything is an opportunity for them. And if we get lost fighting amongst each other, instead of trying to find, like I said earlier, trying to find at least an area where we agree. If we all agree that we need to end these wars, then if it's a libertarian, if it's somebody on the right that's tired of these wars, then we should come together and we should do that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I really resonated, and I know you didn't get to see it this time, but the gentleman speaking had a Confederate flag emblem on his hat, and he signaled to that, and he said, this is a representative symbol of the Confederacy, and he's still wearing it, and so they know what the Confederacy was. And he talks about 100 years ago we beat people, and now we're being beaten. So it's almost like my whole thing when we were talking about Fred Hampton and the Rainbow Coalition was these people. They didn't just automatically stop being racist. I mean, they come from a racist place, from the United States. They come from the Confederacy. And he's talking about this, and he's still wearing the emblem. So, no, I'm not going to buy that none of these people were racist. But that's beside the point. The point is he's talking about we're angry now because we're being beaten too. And we got to come together. And that is to me, it's so telling, because when I'm comparing it to today, and I'm looking at these people and the way they were speaking and the way they were talking and their emblems, the left would have never wanted to unite with them today. And so what I feel is us right now, we are trying to continue doing in some form or another what was attempted back then. And that is why it was stopped, because a working class coalition across the board is the biggest threat to the status quo. And those people that are impeding this from happening, that are telling us that we're trying to be red-brown, that we're racist, that we're all this stuff, those people are in the way of this happening. We need to see past them, and we need to come together as a people to continue this fight, because really very little has changed in terms of power.
I wanted to go back to the Confederate flag, because the argument I was hearing, like, for me, there's been a lot of whitewashing of history to try to make a lot of black black liberationist heroes more palatable to white America, and like they did with Malcolm X, like they did with Martin Luther King, and I think also with Fred Hampton. Like when we first started, when I was talking about Fred Hampton and how I feel like in a way they're disrespecting his legacy to try to keep this division going, it didn't really matter to me. They try to use the Confederate flag. They said that the Confederate flag wasn't being used because they were racist. It was being used because they wanted to recruit other people. So, well, who are they trying to recruit with the Confederate flag? So a lot of these things don't make any sense. And when we get to the point, I guess what it comes down to is whether or not they were racist or not really has nothing to do with the argument. The argument, first of all, is Fred Hampton and the Panthers, at that point, they didn't know, if you saw like earlier in that clip, they didn't know what they were walking into. They see a bunch of white guys with Confederate flags, but they went anyway. That's the point. They wanted to try to unite anyway. So these people that are trying to make these like disingenuous arguments about whether they were racist, to me, that's all smoke. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
The point is he was willing to meet with them anyway, and he had no idea, I should say his sergeant, that when it had no idea of what they were going into, they were willing to unite with these people and try to find a way to fight for what they needed anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of convert that to today's time, right? All right, we talked about like how a lot of people are saying like the YPO weren't racist. Like they want to make sure that, a lot of these leftist bourgeois people, because they were like, oh, they would never work with racists and we should never work with racist and stuff. But I always make this point, whatnot, and it's hard making it as a white person because sometimes I can be looked at as being selfish, and I say, well, there's a big difference between a racist in power and a racist without power. Like, I think people are always so concerned with that guy who's sitting on the porch in the South with a MAGA hat on that will use the N-word, which is awful and is bad, and we have to walk and chew gum at the same time and try to get these people to understand that they're living a nightmare and they're very, very wrong. But isn't it a far cry from a person like Kamala Harris, who will come with roses and petals and say everything's so nice, but then will lock up black people at a rate of 12-1 for marijuana in California? Isn't there a difference between the two? And am I wrong for saying that I don't get as angry at that stupid fucking racist person who's taught to be racist as opposed to the racist in power that doesn't show their true colors?
Well, I mean, for me, I don't go to bed at night worrying about whether or not some Karen in Walmart is yelling the N-word. I mean, that doesn't really have any effect on me. Yeah. I mean, if they were doing it to my face, it might be different. And I don't really like the fact that it's happening. These people, to me, I almost feel sorry for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the real threat is not them. You know, I don't go to bed worrying about whether or not the Boogaloo Boys or the Boogaloo Boys took no food off my table. You know, the Boogaloo Boys they're not destroying my neighborhoods. You know, it's the people in D.C. that are destroying my neighborhoods. And I really feel, I don't even know how to say this. I don't want to come off like I think that these racist people are okay, you know, but that doesn't mean that people cannot change. When I was in the military, I'll give you an example. Do you know how many racist people we had to deal with in the military? You know? And a lot of those people became my friends.
Yeah.
One of those people is one of my best friends today, you know? And so to say that people can't change or you can't even converse with people because you feel a certain way about them. When I grew up, I'll be honest, we had an ideology we had something that we call 5%ers. 5%ers believe all white people were the devil. And, you know, and I kind of grew up in that until I actually met some white people and I realized that that's not true. But if the people never talk to each other, then how is anything going to ever change?
Yeah. I remember I was in the submarine simulator, and it was one where leaks are sprung, and you got to repair the leaks. And I remember seeing one of the most racist cats that we had working with a man of color in there. And when they came out of that simulation, they were best friends because they realized that they were in the same boat at that particular, literally in the same boat. Like, it doesn't make a difference, black, white, brown, yellow. You have, you're in the same boat. You got to work together. So I've had those same experiences in the military that you did, and it's great to see that stuff because I believe a lot of those people can be convinced, can go the other way. They were taught to be racist. We can unteach them and we can show them that they're wrong. And they're a lot easier to convert than actually the people upstairs who are pulling the strings to make us, like you said, be at each other's throats.
Yeah, that's like empire education. We talk about it, about how the education system here is purposely, systematically divisive. It's to divide the people. They want to keep dividing the people. That's the goal of the empire, to divide us so we don't unite and fucking ask for the shit that we wanted to. And that's what Fred Hampton talked about. He said we're going to fight racism not with racism, but we're going to fight it with solidarity. He said that, and I'm going to play this clip real quick of when he said that.
We're not a racist organization because we understand that racism is an excuse used for capitalism, and we know that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. If we don't hate the motherfucking white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow. We're gonna fight racism, not with racism, but we're gonna fight with solidarity. We say we're not gonna fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people, and we're gonna have to put it back in the hands of the people. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black, and I hate white people. I'm white, and I hate black people. I'm Latin American, and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly, I hate Indians. So we fight amongst each other. Nothing's more important than stopping fascism, because fascism will stop us all. That's the people's thing. Socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself.
Damn.
Right, so just kind of like, Fred Hampton saw it. He saw it. How the empire was, trying to divide people. So, thoughts on that, Fee?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out something that, has been pointed out by people like Hampton, Malcolm X, and MLK is the people who are like the moderates, right? The moderates, but also the black imperialists, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris. Those people, I think, have served so much damage to any sort of working class revolution with the use of identity politics. And being Latina, especially Jonny, here when you came to California, the vast majority of Latino people in politics in California are all straight up neoliberals. And what they do is they tokenize the Latin community based on immigration. Right? They say you got to vote for the Democrat because, they're being racist against immigrants. They want to build a wall, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And when you it's very hard to find people that are Latino involved in politics that aren't neoliberals. And that, to me, I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because to me, I'm sick and tired of being tokenized and used as this cushion for the Democratic Party to gain votes, and then they don't do shit for that community at all, and that community is largely working class, because when they don't do any economics for anybody, then obviously all the marginalized communities suffer, and that's the hypocrisy. And I hate them more than I hate the Republicans, because I know where I stand with the Republicans. I know where they're at. But with the Democrats, and especially the Squad and these progressives, they use this and they pat themselves on the back. AOC is the Latina representative for the faux left, the synthetic left, these progressives, and she does these photo ops where she cries about Trump and then the border and the detention camps, but we haven't heard her say shit about what's going on now. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and those people, because to me, those people make me angrier than the Republicans, because they're using and manipulating us through emotions to get votes and political capital.
I know. I mean, I guess I'll speak on as far as the black community goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say how frustrating it is to watch the Democratic Party play us. I mean, it's been 50 years now. It's been more than 50 years. We get things like Juneteenth. As I said, nobody asked for Juneteenth. We asked for some money for our community. It's all game playing. It's all symbolism.
What about the new hip hop bill? Jamal Bauman, hip hop is now part of the culture. Resolution. It's in there.
Oh yeah, I saw that. And it's ridiculous. As far as the Squad goes, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, people told me on my Twitter that these people are my allies. I said, these people just coordinated their votes to give more money to the police. How are these people my allies? We went from defund the police to let's see who could vote present so Nancy Pelosi could pass money to give more money to the police. I mean, these people are not my allies. I don't know if they're your allies, but where I come from, we're trying to do something about the police, not give them more money. And I mean, it even goes back to from the very beginning with the Squad. Where were they for Tara Reade? I mean, it's just all about Democrats. They're falling in line with the Democrats. They're going to continue to fall in line with the Democrats, and that's just the way it is. A lot of this stuff is performative. Everybody's everybody's tired of the tweets. We're waiting for some action, and we're not going to get it.
Jonny, you got something? You want me to ask? Well, I'm going to ask a question right now too, as well. Let's talk about, like you talked about Malcolm, right? And we had a social justice warrior friend that used to come over and used to play Malcolm's early stuff, right? The whole black nationalist speech and stuff. Whereas if I love to play his post-Mecca speeches, you know what I'm saying? When he comes back and he talks about, I don't care who I have to work with, but whoever wants to go after these people in power who have done so wrong, that's who I'll work with. And it shows that he'll work with anybody. What are your thoughts about a lot of people? I mean, the social justice warriors often feel like if we fix racism, everything else will fall into place. We talked about this earlier. Is it possible if we do go about it that way? Let's look at their vision, right? If we do fix that way, what will happen to the other stuff? What will happen as far as fixing empire and also the class issues and stuff? Is it possible that if we fix racism first, everything else will fall into play?
Well, I mean, I don't even know where to start with that, because I don't know if it's possible to fix racism in America. I mean, America is built on racism.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even really my focus. I mean, when I talk about reparations and things of that nature, my focus is that there's a debt owed to Black Americans that the United States government has spent the last few centuries trying to find a way not to pay.
Yeah.
And as far as the Black community goes, we're not going to be made whole. As much I'm for everything with the universal programs. Everybody is hurt. You know what I'm saying? But for us to be whole, even with the universal programs, like I said, that's not going to, even if there's things that are directed more towards, or when you say things like, well, this will disproportionately help the Black community, that's not going to end the racial wealth gap. The only thing that's going to end the racial wealth gap is reparations. But that doesn't mean that I'm not completely in the battle, in the struggle, in the class struggle. They don't have to be separate things, and I feel like, I mean, a lot of arguments come where some people just want to say, well, no, it's just a class war. I'm not. It is a class war. There's going to always be a class war, but I just don't like the fact that it almost feels like they want Black people to step aside and forget about what happened, so we could just join the class war. And then once we get everything that we want, that's the end. That's not the end for me, but it still comes down to the point. We have a group of people who are claiming to be leftists that are helping the empire keep everybody divided.
Mm-hmm.
They're preaching Marxism. They're preaching, McCarthyism. They're preaching censorship. I mean, these people are not leftists by any stretch of the imagination. There's no battle going on between the left. After Bernie was finished himself, I should say, I mean, that's where the divide came. That's where the divide first started to show itself, because there were people who still wanted to stay in the Bernie wing, try to convince us that somehow we were going to defeat the oligarchy by using their system. Well, we learned that that's not going to work, right? We're going to have to get out in the streets. We're going to have to do a lot of things, and we can't do it with everybody fighting against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the purpose of the squad, is to continue that whole dynamic by, I call it intersectional fascism, intersectional imperialism. You have, every color under the rainbow with the squad, but what are they being weaponized for? To divide us, to tell us that we can only fight for, attainable projects. Like Medicare for all, no, that's not attainable right now. Oh, $15 minimum wage, it was attainable, but not anymore. Like, it's all these things that they're telling you can't do.
It's never going to be the right time.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to tell people.
Yeah.
The right time is never. If we're in a pandemic where hundreds of thousands of people have died, millions of people have lost their health care, if that's not the right time, when is the right time?
Never.
The things that they're saying are ridiculous, and I can't really trust. How can I trust somebody who's a squad member that's going to fight for me and is going to fight for the working class? And look at what's happening with them. We got Ilhan Omar. Biden is bombing Somalia. Mm-hmm. We got Rashida Tlaib. They're still giving more money to Israel. And if I can't expect to see these people every day fighting against that, what makes me think they're going to fight for me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
So what do we do, Daryl? What do we do to get this done? What's the first step out there where we can be all inclusive in our journeys to fight? You know what I'm saying? All these forces against us, where we just don't make it all about class. We don't make it all about race or gender or anything. How do we bring this shit together to get people in the streets together to fight against the common enemy that is putting us all down?
Well, I mean, that's the question.
Well, that's why we had you on.
That's the question.
We saw your tweets.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, right now, I think we have too much focus on the people that we know are fighting against us, the people that are supposed to be our allies, that we know are fighting against us. And I think, in a way, we have to if they're saying something ridiculous that's harmful, we have to fight back against that, because we can't let that stay in the air. And people believe that these things are true. And with places like TYT, it's difficult to ignore them because they have supposedly 5 million subscribers. If they're preaching some of these dangerous things, this imperialist left crap, that's a problem. But I think that we have to, in a way, sometimes we just have to try to focus more on what we're building. We know that they're going to try to tear down what we're building. They're going to try to cause chaos and confusion, because that's their job. So we really got to, I think, start focusing more on what it is we're trying to build. Don't get into fights with people trying to say you can't talk to this person, you can't talk to that person. We just have to continue to do what it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I'm hoping that eventually we'll be able to reach enough people, or maybe if people see the truth, then maybe we can even bring some of the people that have been brainwashed by other forces along.
Yeah. Johnny?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like just stuck in the Twitterverse, where especially where all these, neoliberals and the moderates are. The milquetoast moderates liberals are, right? So I feel like, I've been seeing calls on Twitter actually from real leftists saying, we need to start building mutual aid, and we need to start doing it's not charity, it's building communities,
Right.
It's a dual thing, we both benefit from that. Exactly. So I'm seeing more calls for that. I need to know where it's happening. People, we gotta see where it's happening. I want to cover it. I want to boost it. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that's the way. We gotta build a mutual aid and build communities of creativity, communities where people can get help for medical issues if they want, communities where there's food available for them, and especially now when it looks like the economy is about to fall or collapse. I don't know what's going to happen. I think they're going to shut down here soon. Any thoughts on that, Daryl?
Oh yeah. Well, I guess what I wanted to kind of give a shout out to when you talked about the mutual aid. I mean, Fred Hampton left. I mean, I got a lot of admiration for the things that they're doing out there. They're out there in the streets and they're really helping people.
Yeah.
I'm getting really worried with this eviction moratorium that's been delayed for some. Being homeless, I was homeless for quite a few years. I tell people I know what it's like to wake up, in the street and be home. It's just not a good feel. And I think I was tweeted about this also, because when evictions start, that's not the end. It's not just that you don't have a home. All kinds of things can happen. I've seen people, because they were evicted, have their children taken away from them because the state says, well, you're an unfit parent. I mean, and once the evictions happen, I mean, you're stuck with that. Even if you can get yourself back on your feet, how are you going to get a place to live? Because now you got an eviction on your record. It's more than even just getting kicked out into the street. It goes on for years for a lot of people. And we really, I was also tweeting about, after we know what happened with Cori Bushner and AOC going down there and supposedly solving the problem. with kicking it down the road for 60 days. And I was tweeting, I said, now let's see. Now you got 60 days. You can't tell us you just found out. You know, you got 60 days. What are you organizing? Where are you? I haven't seen anything about trying to get people down to Washington, D.C. to try to get this stopped. We don't need a moratorium. We need to be able to keep people in their homes.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to cancel the rent, you know. And I think it's also amazing, too, you pointed out something earlier about, like, the way the groups say you can't talk to that person. Those are the people that you should go talk to. You know what I'm saying? The people they're saying, oh, you can't talk to that person because that person's lost his way. We got to cancel that person. No, that's the person I'm going to go talk to and convince them of a different way, or at least show them. And if not, try to learn something from where they're coming from so we can really get good solutions to fix these problems and make us come together. What are your thoughts about some of these protests out in the street? And then the counter protest, like you got the anti-mask protest, and you got people coming out counter protesting them, arguing left and right. What are your thoughts when you see that?
Like I said earlier, for me, this is they just found another way to keep people at their throats. That's all it is for me. You know, like I said before, any event, whether it's January 6th, whether it's Trump, whether it's masks or vaccines. I mean, anything they can do to try to drive wedges in between people, they're going to do it. Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what they're doing now with the vaccine mandates and stuff like that, right? That's like, oh, you're this or you're that. You're like more and more divisive tactics. And by the way, the rules don't apply to the 1%. They get to
the rules don't apply to them. Yeah.
That's what I think we have to point out, right? Keep pointing that out.
I had even mentioned before, because, you know, of course, when they want to talk about the anti-vax, what they really want to do is to go after the Trump supporters, right?
Right.
But I said earlier that I can't wait to see what they're going to do when they find out how many black people are not going to take that vaccine.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So I was really interested in that. I said, what are you going to call the black people who won't take the vaccine?
Right.
Because since everybody is virtue signaling and everything like that, I want to see how you're going to handle that. And of course, the data comes out that a lot of black people aren't going to take the vaccine, which I knew.
Yeah. Well, why would they trust the government that's been using them as experiments before? You know, when we talk about Tuskegee, you know what I'm saying? There's a new movie out. It's called Medical Racism, and it's on Robert Kennedy Jr.'s page and stuff, and a lot of people should go watch that, you know. And what are you gonna do? You know, I'm curious too as well, because there are a lot of people of color out there who, you know, I'm a white guy and I don't want to take the vaccine. I don't trust, you know, but what they've done to black people historically when it comes to medical racism, man, it's crazy. So I am interested to see what comes of this when they see a lot of people of color not taking the vaccine. So
yeah.
So that's why we think about solutions like a Medicare for all system is a good solution. I was thinking UBI, but
the problem with UBI under this current system is they're going to weaponize
under a capitalist system, right?
Yeah, that's the issue with UBI under capitalism.
That's the whole fact that the real issue is capitalism. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And this oligarchy too. I mean, you had the image of the Black Panthers having free breakfast and things like that. I mean, I think that's where it has to start. And I think going back to the mutual aid thing, that's where I see people doing it. When I mention mutual aid now, it's like, it's not to replace, a nationalized healthcare system. It's not to replace what the government could do. It's to show them that if you're not going to do it, the people will do it. And like, what are you going to do then in terms of that? Because if the people become self-sufficient and you pretty much show that the government is useless, that's a problem for them. That's why they make it illegal for you to collect rainwater. That's why they make certain things illegal for you to like have, save your own money by like inventing whatever device to save electricity. That's why, because they want you dependent on what they can give you. But if you organize and you work with what you have, because there are so many more of us than there are of them, then that becomes a threat to them. It helps us, but it becomes a threat. I saw a microcosm of that here when it was the Echo Park community that was raising funds through mutual aid and building like a kitchen, a garden, and a community of unhoused people in the park. And because they got done asking the city for help because there's a giant wait list, they're not being fair with them. They're trying to keep them imprisoned, giving them, no autonomy over their lives. And so they did that. And what did the city do? They came in, they wiped out the whole thing. They shut off their water, shut off the electricity, removed all those tents, and pretty much expelled those people, because it's not even about getting government help. It's about that even if you want to help yourself, they want to stop you from that because they want compliance. And that, I think, is the other big battle we're fighting. It's not just, we're not fighting income inequality, we're fighting racism, but we're also fighting this authoritarianism that we have, this fascism that is, it's a different type of fascism. It's not just, the KKK member with a hood. It's literally a man in a suit. Mm-hmm. It's literally the surveillance state on your computer, listening on your phone, censoring videos like this. That's the fascism we're fighting.
Yeah, I never got why it's so hard to understand that if you are calling for the censorship of somebody that you don't like, if you're on the right, that if you're on the left, or if you're a black person, you don't understand that the censorship is really meant for you.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you're the ones that they really want to shut down. Anybody who's really challenging the system of capitalism, that's who they really want to shut down. So I just never understood how that can't seep through. I used to say, listen, I'm not for fighting censorship because I'm a wonderful person. I'm for fighting censorship because I'm selfish, because I want to be able to say what I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Daryl, I think this was a great show today. I thank you so much for coming on. I think we should have you on more often. Definitely. This was fun. Couple quick questions. Yankees or Mets?
Yankees.
What? You're from Queens.
Yankees, always Yankees.
Oh.
I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens, but always been a Yankee fan. Yankees, Knicks, and Giants.
Giants? You're from Queens, man. You're supposed to be Mets and Jets with me. At least we got the Knicks together.
So you must be a Long Islander.
I'm an Islander fan, baby. I'm from I'm from Amityville, so yeah, of course, that definitely and stuff. Well, let me ask you another question. Most underrated hip hop group or person of all time?
Oh, wow.
Put you on the spot.
Well, I'm going to say somebody you probably never heard of. His name is Jeru the Damager.
I know damn well you're playing yourself with all that rah, 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 rah. Believe you me, I think he is one of the most underrated. For me, it's De La Soul. I think De La Soul is one of the most.
A lot too.
Yeah. Remember, I'm 48, so I was around for the birth of hip hop with you. Who's the most overrated? Kind of like in pop music or whatever. Dave Matthews Band, the most overrated band. You know what I'm saying? Who's the most overrated when it comes to hip hop?
Oh wow. Most overrated. I don't even know, because some of these people I just don't even consider real rappers. But I could say I don't know. Is Hammer considered a real rapper?
Well, you can say he's overrated. He did blow up crazy and stuff. I like the Hammer story, the way he sold albums out the back of his trunk and whatnot. Started small, made it big.
That was a great story.
Yeah. But yeah.
He was a great entertainer, though.
Yeah. I thought that Will Smith was one of the most overrated and stuff, personally, but he did have Summertime. That was one of the best songs.
He had a couple of songs that I liked. He was kind of corny.
He was. Parents just don't understand.
I have a question, though. I have a feeling I'm going to know your answer based on where you are. Biggie or Tupac?
Oh, Biggie.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I've been telling you guys this for a long time, right? Biggie is the shit. Daryl, thank you so much. Come on again with us. We have a lot more conversations like this. I really learned a lot today, knowing that we gotta walk and chew gum at the same time. You know, I think a lot of times we see, you know, because we've been involved with the activists and we see where they're pushing from, they never pay attention to the class warfare. But you even said there's a lot of people who pay attention too much to the class and don't pay attention to the other side. We need to pay attention to both and make this happen. Yeah.
Thank you, Daryl. We appreciate you coming on.
All right, thanks. It was great talking to you guys.
Check him out, Black in the Empire. Got a great his Twitter is fire.
He's got a YouTube show coming soon.
You got a YouTube show coming soon?
Yeah, I'm going to be starting a YouTube show soon. I've been procrastinating, but it's coming soon.
You need one. You need one. You got to get your voice out there. It's amazing. Your tweets are fire. They really are.
Thank you so much, and good luck with the YouTube show. Let us know when, so we'll put it on the show.
And go Mets.
Thanks a lot. Go Yankees.
Yankees.
Yeah, go Yankees.
I
mean,
damn.
Come on, fam. The Yankees.
The Yankees.
Yeah.
Can we take a quick 2-minute break real quick?
Hi, everybody. It's me. So that was a really great conversation. I love having conversations like that. On Monday, we're gonna have what are we gonna have? Monday, we're gonna have somebody from the Fred Hampton Left, special guest.
I think it was wasn't it Unapologetic?
Yep, we're gonna have Unapologetic come on, and
when do we have Savvy Sabs?
I haven't scheduled her, but we're gonna schedule her soon.
Okay.
And then I think we have Friday. We're gonna have Steve Poikinen and Kevin Gostola to talk about Assange and the case and where we go from there. But Monday we're gonna have Unapologetic from Fred Hampton Left. So we're gonna be having more of these intersectional conversations. We talk about solutions too, because it's important to talk about solutions. But I think it's important to also debunk the synthetic left. And I saw this last night, and I thought it was important to point out, because we have to understand, in order to defeat an enemy, and I think at this point some of these people are our enemy, we have to understand where they're coming from and how they manipulate certain information, right? We just talked about censorship and why censorship is wrong and why it hurts you, the person who... especially marginalized people. Censorship period is wrong, but it's a very slippery slope into fascism, right? And so because YouTube's been censoring everything on COVID, everything on elections, everything like that, people have found other outlets. So there's this new outlet called Rumble, and I haven't done a deep dive into it. It's majority of the people that are on there are on the right, because a lot of those people were censored off Twitter and YouTube, etc. But the way she frames it, the way Ana Kasparian frames it in this video, she's arguing for censorship. She's calling any sort of censorship on COVID is okay because she says it's disinformation. And she alludes to the fact that we need to stop disinformation from happening. But again, who is in charge of the things you hear? Who's in charge of disinformation? Like who is there to say, hey, I am Susan Wojcicki. I am the CEO of YouTube. And so I'm going to decide for you, because you're too stupid, what is medical misinformation and what isn't. And I think that's wrong, because I think that's a predator class 1%er, and they're going to look at for their interests, not for our interests. So I wanted to go over this video and pretty much stop and start it and debunk it, because here our Ana K is going after Tulsi Gabbard and Glenn Greenwald for joining Rumble. You don't have to like Tulsi Gabbard or Glenn Greenwald, but to advocate for censorship is my issue. So let's begin.
Tulsi Gabbard and Glenn Greenwald have apparently signed a deal with a social media platform known as Rumble. Now, there are many of these platforms popping up all over the place, but Rumble is a platform that's been around since 2013. It didn't really grow in popularity until places like YouTube, for instance, started doing away with content that spread disinformation on things like the coronavirus pandemic. And so people who wanted to publish disinformation decided to flow into alternative social media platforms like Rumble. And now it's growing. Their user base has grown quite a bit. And now we're hearing about what they're doing to bolster their credibility. So the Toronto-based upstart Rumble said that it has struck deals with former US Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, the journalist firebrand Glenn Greenwald, and others who had committed to posting their videos first to the site. Now, the company declined to provide any of the financial details, but Glenn Greenwald said the top creator's year-long contract will pay in the mid-range 6 figures. It's quite a bit of money. So they're offering these massive deals, and the whole point is, look, you provide us well-produced, high-quality content, you get this money, we're all good. But what sets Rumble apart from other social media platforms? Well, Rumble has emerged over the last year as one of the most prominent video sites for right-wing viewers and provocateurs, and it is seeking to bolster its image as a new online home for those who claim they've been censored by big tech. Because when you have over 1 million followers on Twitter, and when you have a giant following in general, and you get to run your mouth literally all day, every day, you are in fact being censored.
Okay, can stop here. So as you can see, she's sharing excerpts from the Washington Post, who did a really scathing article of Rumble, pretty much saying it was a site for conspiracy theories and for misinformation to spread. She's also alluding to the fact that Tulsi Gabbard, who has over 1 million followers on Twitter, and she has been anti-censorship. I mean, she was the only person who ran for office that was advocating for free speech and whistleblowers and press freedoms. Do I agree with her silence on Israel-Palestine? No, that's one of the things that I think is a complete and total no. I think that's terrible. But as far as censorship goes, she was like the only one. And Glenn Greenwald has also been a huge advocate against censorship, exposing the duplicity of the squad, etc. And so, ironically enough, neither of them have really talked about the virus and all of that stuff, right? But she's framing it here. Ana K is framing it like, if you're talking about medical misinformation and COVID, people who think they've been censored by big tech, there is no thinking. It is a fact. Big tech is working with our government to censor people. They admitted they have a division in the post office. They have the what is it? I forget the specific name, but there's other state agencies that have multiple divisions with pre-crime. There is a domestic violent extremist watch on everybody now. Anybody that's an anti-government or an activist. There's, you know, the NSA is obviously continuously watching us. We saw the whole thing with Tucker Carlson and all of that. So we know that this is happening. It's not somebody's imagination. It's not people exaggerating, and it's not just because you outright say, let's say somebody says, quote, you know, COVID is a hoax. Let's say somebody says that. That's not why people are getting shut down. People are getting shut down like this doctor that we showed yesterday, right? For voicing his medical opinion on an issue. Then you have people getting shut down for talking about what happened during the elections. Like us, we got our videos taken down. That is not misinformation. And who is Anna to be the gatekeeper of what is misinformation and what isn't? Once you allow that, it's going to expand and get worse. So she's framing it like they did something wrong for trying to go to another platform, just like we're going to Rokfin. And she later mentions Rokfin, which is what I wanted to get to. Did you have anything to say, Jonny? Okay.
It's just the fact of the matter. Like, Glenn Greenwald is definitely censored on Twitter. So he's got to go to Rumble. He has no choice but to accept that deal in the mid 6 figures in order to publish his content there. I'm sure that it's all about being a principled anti-censorship journalist. But I don't know, maybe you have a different perspective, Lance. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if anyone from Rumble is watching, just know that for a price, I will reverse everything I'm about to say on TYT. So just email me. I'm sure the detail will pop up at some point. On the side note, I've actually spoken to some of the people who are like designing and coding a lot of these alt sites. Like there's another one called Odyssey, and then there's one called Rokfin as well. And there's a lot of these kind of like alternative streaming sites, which I have nothing against. I think it's unusual that the left is really scared to.
Yeah, so he mentions Rokfin. He didn't say it right, but it's Rokfin, right? And she talks about the money real quick. We can let some of I want to hear what she says next, but she talked about the money. What about the money that TYT is paid to literally propagandize lies to people? I mean, people, like, what about that? Like, what? She's so rich of her to talk about money when TYT has millions of dollars in funding, and I have not seen Anna anywhere on the ground, or Cenk, or any of their little reporters anywhere near on the ground, period, at all. With a micro budget, we somehow managed to do it. I just want to point that out.
Them, and when I've spoken to the people who code these sites, they've always said they get very rapid adoption from the right. And I'm assuming a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you know, under current discourse, what is considered polite to do in the Overton window, like you can't really be outwardly transphobic on Twitter anymore. You can't be outwardly transphobic on YouTube anymore. So if you wanted to espouse those kind of ideas, you'd have to find something alternative. So that's maybe why some of them pivot. But there's also
that is why.
That's
100% why.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Real quick,
but I think
on that, sure, there are people that are on the right that want to be racist and anti-LGBTQ and all of that. Sure, that exists. That's not why people like Greenwald and Tulsi Gabbard and other people like us join alternative sites. We join it because we're being censored from speaking truth to power by people whose livelihood depends on those lies perpetuating. This is what I call disingenuous narrative management reporting, because she has to protect the mainstream media, Google, YouTube, because that's her livelihood. And if people still by now don't know who TYT are, well, here's a great example. The left isn't joining these platforms to spew hatred for marginalized people. The left is joining these platforms cautiously, and they are cautious because we get a lot of backlash for joining any platform that's not YouTube. Ironically, for joining any platform that's not censoring us. And so they're doing this because we're not allowed to say, I mean, we have to go on Rokfin to talk about the virus. We're not allowed to talk about anything of really like super anything against the national security state, anything against war. All of those things that have been long demonetized for us whenever we had monetization, right? They want to stop us from doing what we're doing. And so we're telling YouTube, screw you. We're not going to be stopped. You're trying to strangle us monetarily. So we're going to go on Rokfin and we're going to talk about things that we want to talk about. That's why you have people from everywhere now coming on Rokfin, because they see what time it's up. Pretty soon, you're not going to be able to say anything remotely truthful on YouTube. And more people are finding out that the best videos and the best content isn't even on YouTube anymore, because YouTube is censoring the hell out of every truthful thing. So, yeah, just let it play, Johnny.
There might also be that idea that there's a lot of people on the left who are also afraid of entering those ecosystems in the first place because they're already filled with all these ghouls. Like, why would I go there? It's already loaded. Like anytime like I upload to like Odyssey, for example, I don't read the comments because it's all just about what a soy. I don't know what I can say during daytime right now. I'll just leave it at soy. So I'm just a soy. I'm just literally a piece of soy, and it'll just say that and it'll pile up. So that might be another reason why the early adoption has been a problem. What I would be curious to know when it comes to Rumble and they're reaching out to try and diversify, because I just looked at their catalog, it is overwhelmingly like Donald Trump Jr., all the way over to like Mike Cernovich, so very prominent right-wing figures. Are they trying to reach out to what they consider to be more centrist voices to balance that out?
Well, I mean, I certainly don't see any big names on the left as part of this deal or as part of this effort to bolster its online presence. And what set Rumble apart from some of the more traditional or long-standing social media platforms is the fact that they will not censor disinformation pertaining to things like coronavirus. And in fact, that's what Glenn Greenwald himself cited in his reasoning for wanting to join in this deal. So, the site does ban racism and hate speech, but has contrasted itself with the Google-owned YouTube by refusing to remove medical misinformation, including those casting doubt on vaccines during a pandemic that is surging in many states and has killed more than 4 million people around the world. Now, Gabbard and Greenwald have expanded.
Okay, again, I can't say too much on this particular thing, but you notice how she is once again quoting the Washington Post, right? And notice how they frame it, who are casting doubt on vaccines during this pandemic that has killed all these people, blah, 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 right? That is disingenuous, because you're not showing the other side as to what is actually killing people and the lack of health care and the other ailments, the other medicines that could have been used to help people. You're not talking about that, right? And this is why I believe Ana is paid to be a narrative manager for the status quo, because she is doing the opposite of what we're doing. We're trying to inform people on the truth. And so this is why we have to go on Rokfin if we're going to mention anything related to the virus, because we're going to be shut down if not, right? She is maligning the people doing that, the people who are asking questions, the people who refuse censorship. She is maligning those people as conspiracy theorists, as people that are speaking and hurting and harming the vast majority of Americans, right? And not only is she doing that, she's denouncing the fact that they're even going on another platform because they're not welcome. They're like, the Washington Post here is admitting that these people remove medical misinformation, but we know that what they consider that is very broad, and it could be anything that they disagree with or that simply threatens them. So this is what I wanted to show about Ana and TYT, is that they're there to pretty much narrative manage for the status quo, the accepted narrative. There's nothing different from TYT and MSNBC, really, when you're talking about issues like this. We were talking about issues like Assange, the national security state, the virus. There's literally no difference. She's not challenging the status quo. She's embracing it. She's in fact saying you must also embrace it, or you are a conspiracy theorist and pushing medical misinformation, or you're a right winger. Look at you going into a platform with a bunch of right wingers. The way I look at going into a platform with a bunch of right wingers is, hey, maybe these people will finally hear some leftists that might agree with them on a couple things, but then is also going to educate them on something different. That is what we try to do here. That's what we did when it came to the elections. That's what I've done when it comes to imperialism and foreign policy. Even when I talk to people who are Republicans on a day-to-day basis, or people who don't really know what we know, there's a way to talk to people like they're not freaking idiots, because what a lot of these people on the left media do is that they put a camera in front of some Trump supporter, or they call them anti-vaxxers, and they, frame them as Nazis, as fascists and all of that. But there's no conversation. There's no back and forth. There's no dialogue. It's just an attempt to ridicule a person. And I don't care what you believe in. That to me is not journalism. That is entertainment. That is it's unproductive. It's unproductive to what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to unite the working class. We're trying to expose the working class to the truth. And if you're going to just mock people, and if you're going to try to censor them from asking questions, you're not understanding the fact that the reason people believe in conspiracy theories, the reason people are so quick to fall for a lot of the delusions and the psyops from the state agencies, it's because the government lies to them, and they know that. That's all they know. And so from there, they can either be educated with the truth, or they're going to be educated with something that's a lie. So why not go into a platform like Rumble, where you're actually talking to people and educating them, and they're opening themselves to content that they may not have heard of before. This is why I'm all for anybody on the left going on Tucker Carlson and talking about, imperialism, or talking about something from a different lens that's not NATO-backed Nomiki Konst or NATO-backed Ana Kasparian, because these people are just going to enter into a screaming match. Anna versus Tucker, or Nomiki versus Tucker. That's all it is. But when somebody like Jimmy Dore goes there, when somebody like from the Gray Zone goes there, when any of us go on there, we're exposing a huge audience, like the #1 watch show in America, to a perspective that may be different than what they perceive a liberal to be, because their version of the left is AOC, and that's not what we consider to be a genuine, version of what we consider to be anti-imperialist left. And so that's why we have to do these things, and that's why it's important to speak out against people like Anna, who are manipulating the narrative and framing it in a way that makes us look like we're wrong. And the fact that they mention Rokfin is a really big ups. That means that they're threatened by a lot of us who are using other platforms to pretty much surpass their Google algorithm. Because if you look at who is supported by the Google algorithm, guys, it's usually people who aren't really tackling the heavy subjects. It's usually people who are, especially the Google algorithm, Susan Wojcicki, pro-Democrat. It's people who are attacking Donald Trump and Republicans constantly. Imagine if we did 20 videos of Marjorie Taylor Greene and how awful she is. Like, how quickly would we get remonetized? How quickly would we get into the algorithm? Oh, let me talk about how amazing the squad is. Oh, like the things Joe Biden has achieved. Why Joe Biden has been better than Donald Trump so far. I could literally do all these things, and we could literally have made so much money and be so popular. But what does that do? You become the mainstream media with a brand that says progressive on it, but it's nothing more than superficial. It's just superficial bullshit. That's all you are. You're it's worse. It's the same way I feel about the squad as I feel about TYT and the faux left. It's because they know what they're doing is wrong. They know that it's not genuine, and they still do it because it's either politically it's politically, it's political capital, right? It's beneficial to them, or it's beneficial to their brand as who they are as this progressive, blah, blah, blah. And they know that they're losing the game. They're losing this battle. And you can tell because of the attacks that have surfaced constantly now from that side. I mean, you talk about Tim Black, you talk about TYT, the Majority Report, all these people, their attacks have leveled up because they have nothing if they don't have the reaction from people on this end of the spectrum that are like, you're a joke, blah, blah, blah. That's all they have left because people are not buying their shit anymore. I don't give a shit if they have 5 million subscribers. Who watches them? Really? Like, I have a fraction of their subscribers and we have more engagement with our audience because we care about our audience and we care about the truth. And if our audience says, hey, we want to see this, we listen to you. But they don't care. They just look at people as dollar signs. And it's that same concept of oh, who are we? Are we going to look at each other as dollar signs, or are we going to look at each other as like human beings, right? And if you're against looking at people as human beings, people can see through that eventually. Eventually, it just becomes very clear, right? There's this whole delusion happening right now where people are deluding themselves into thinking that anybody that disagrees with them on Corona is some sort of lunatic, when really just asking a mere question and being suspect is how we've always been about this government and the pharmaceutical industry and all these people that have lied to us. It's logical to feel that way. What's not logical is to pick and choose when you're going to be supportive of free speech or when you're going to be supportive of the government, right? Like it's either we live in an oligarchy and we know that we're being lied to and we know that we're being manipulated, or we don't live in an oligarchy. You can't pick and choose. You can't say, they cheated Bernie Sanders, but they didn't. We have fair and democratic elections and January 6th was trying to stop that. No, it's like, accept where we're at. Because the quicker we accept where we're at and the quicker we can push these people like Anna's and all these people that hate on everybody that's actually trying to unite the working class aside, the quicker we can get shit done. And that's what today's show was about. And I'm glad Jonny brought up that video because, again, we got a lot of pushback when we talked about the Black Panthers and Fred Hampton and all of that. And that video just shows you that what I didn't even get a chance to say is that today people like Anna and people like TYT and all those people would have thrown the YPO out in the street and called them fascists and Nazis and would have never worked with them because they label everybody as a monolith. All the Boogaloo Boys are racist and fascist. All these people are racist and fascists. Red Brown Alliance. That's what they do. They're there to divide us. They're a mask for a friendlier version of the establishment. They're there to replace the establishment. That's why they're fighting and gnawing so violently to stay relevant, right? Because they know their time is up. They know that. So it's a matter of collaborating across all media spectrums, of having these conversations and of having the support of everybody sharing, because we are not in the algorithm. We literally get censored. We have entirely been demonetized on YouTube, and it's not because we're lying. It's because we're telling the truth. And that's the world we live in is upside down. Normally, if it would be the other way around, but no, the left has lost the fight where we used to be anti-censorship. We used to be anti-authoritarian. Now so many of them are embracing this incoming fascism. And Jonny's right. We don't know what's gonna happen. We might shut down again soon. We have to build communities outside of the internet. But while we're here, we're going to go off kicking and screaming. And while we build platforms elsewhere, which is what we got to do, we got to diversify, because again, just like in decentralized organizing on the ground, we have to learn how to do that online. And it's online is and big tech, all of this is new. The revolutionaries of ages ago didn't have to deal with big tech. That they, Lenin didn't have to deal with big tech. I bring up Lenin because the things he was saying are true. If you go to my Twitter, Jonny, really quickly, if you go to my Twitter, I just want to point this out, this tweet from Lenin that I posted last night, because you guys, you don't have to be by the way, a communist or anything like that to agree with something Lenin posted, right? And I just wanted to point this tweet out. It's right here. It should be like the right here. I said, history tells us about the present and warns us for the future. And there it is. And he said, Lenin said, the liberal bourgeoisie grant reforms with one hand and with the other always take them back, reduce them to naught, use them to enslave the workers, to divide them into separate groups and perpetuate wage slavery. That is true. That is what's happening right now. Think about this. Think about the incrementalism that our boy Matt Binder was arguing for, right? That they're going to give you crumbs, guys. They're going to give you one crumb here, and then they're going to take it back. And then it's eventually you pretty much get nothing. And then they're using these reforms to continue for you to believe in the system. And the more you continue to believe in the system, the more they say, well, this person's the problem. Look at these right wingers. They're the problem. Then the right wingers say, look at this black person, this immigrant. They're taking my job. They're the problem. So you're dividing yourself into separate groups and you all are still wage slaves to the system of capitalism. And that's what it is. And like I said, you don't have to be a communist to look at that and say, hey, this is this relates to that. In addition to this, though, we have a liberal bourgeoisie working with big tech in the national security state. This is something unprecedented that we're going to have to incorporate because a lot of people who read theory leave that part out. You can't leave that out. Now this is something we're going to have to deal with because big tech is the giant that is being used online to silence us. So we're going to have to figure out ways not to just study history and what happened during the times of revolution, but also study how we are going to use that and apply certain things to big tech. And that's one of the things that I think I'm focusing on now because it's so important that we understand the power of technology. We can't defeat it. Technology is going to continue to develop. What we can do is get in front of it. Be proactive when it comes to technology and how big tech is. Understand that is cryptic fascism being censored and being demonetized. It's a way to cut your hands off so you stop speaking out. So you have to go work other jobs and not be able to do things like, have a YouTube show or be an independent journalist or whatever it is that you do. Like they are trying to stop us from doing this, and anybody, whether you're a citizen journalist or whether you just need to get out there and say a couple things, we need your voice. And so in order to stop that, we're going to have to figure out how you need to understand how powerful big tech is and how they're working in coalition with the government and state agencies. And that's why it's not about being a private company, because Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are not just private companies. They're working with the government. That's how they get away with saying, oh, they're just private companies. No, we know that they're working with the government. We know that there's money funneled from the big tech into our government. So those are the things that I wanted to point out because maybe it will help people better understand why we're so anti-censorship and why we're so, why TYT is so dangerous, because they have this giant platform and they're using it to pretty much be the same narrative as mainstream media. So anything, Johnny, on that? All right, I'm going to read some super rays. Let me see here. Reeve Barker, thank you for the super ray. Shadowban refugee, orale fi, and me getting down on brujeria. Oh man. Yeah, Shadowban. You caught that? It's not it's not brujeria. I know you're joking, but yeah, the Ouija board. It's fun. Jesse Cauduro Leon. Guys, I am concerned by the mask mandates that are getting draconian. What will happen here in LA? I consume Spanish media as well. My grandma watches the local Univision channel here in LA, and 2 hosts are pro-vax is to a very authoritarian level. The host, Leon Krause, debated a person against the vax and completely shut him down. I'm concerned about the Latino community. They will be the most affected. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, like I said, like we were saying earlier with Daryl, that the Latino community, unfortunately, is also part of the whole neoliberal agenda. Univision, Telemundo, all these, they have, these type of Spanish, little authoritarian type of hosts, and that's by design, guys. That's by design. And I wanted to start a Spanish channel, but like it's just it would just require so much time. Maybe I could do it once a week or something, but the Latino community, I think what's best for us to do is the younger generations educate the older generations, because I mean the older generations have just been watching so much of this mainstream media for so long, like they don't know any better, right? So your grandmother, they're not going to know any better, but I think if there's a certain way to talk to people, just to, what I do is I send articles, I send things for people to read, things with numbers and data, things like that can help people open up to what is happening, right? Because I agree, this is scary what's happening in LA. And in case you guys didn't know, like the breaking news, the LA approved mandates now, so that's gonna happen. Dora de Roiste, I couldn't tip from my phone, but it's on now. Pasta, say it with your chest, my brother. Sorry, Fee, but I had to do it. Thank you, Dara, even though that was obnoxious of Pasta to do. He only says it, though, when you don't put anything. So, James Starks, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is appreciated on the couch.
Just tell him, Dara was telling Pasta to say it with his chest for that. It's always appreciated on the couch.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Carrie Mark, thank you for the Super Ray. What about the kneeling tribute by the Dems in African solidarity? I am sure it brought tears to many and vindication. Not money talks and BS is just the Dem way. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's not like racial issues aren't important, but it's like they weaponize racial issues for symbolism and they don't do anything economics wise to actually help people. Roar Media, great discussion. Thank you, Daryl. We appreciate your thoughtfulness and wisdom. Please keep speaking truth for all of our sisters and brothers sincerely. Thank you, Roar, and thank you, Oz. James Starks, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Gloria Santivanes, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. Amber King, thank you, Amber. 100% on that. We cannot ignore the fraud in elections right now. We need to come together as truth seekers, regardless of politics. We all know that what is driving this division. Shout out to the movie The Trial of Chicago 7. Check it out. Not a damn thing has changed since 1968. De-Google your life. Hashtag Cash Friday. I agree, Amber. I saw that movie. I don't know if you've seen it, Johnny. It's very good. One of the things that I took from that movie is COINTELPRO. There was a woman that was like in a relationship with this guy. She became his girlfriend. She turned out to be an agent for the government during the trial, spying on them. So when I talk about COINTELPRO, people are like, oh, she thinks everybody's CIA. No, this is like, the CIA has always throughout history infiltrated leftist movements. Always. Why? Because they're the easiest to infiltrate. They really are. And so when I talk about COINTELPRO, when I talk about, these attacks, some of them seem coordinated, that's because it's happened. It's not a conspiracy. That happens all the time. It's not, you have to watch out for these people who sow division within groups, right? Who try to turn people against each other. And that is very real. And I recommend watching that movie. That's a good movie. The Chicago 7, 100%. Really nothing has changed, sadly, Amber. We're still being gaslit by the empire. We're still trying to stop war. And right now the anti-war movement is so weak, it's almost non-existent here in America. And that's one of the things, like imperialism, again, people need to understand this. A lot of these, boutique socialists or cappuccino communists, they don't pay enough attention to imperialism. Lesser two evilists. Yeah, it's imperialism is the highest form of capitalism because you've already you have so much wealth in here. So now the small predator class gets to go and extract resources from all over the world and use it for their gain. That is the ultimate form of where we're at. That has to fall, and it is falling. But I think that how it falls and where we go from there is dependent on how we deal with it, like as a society.
Well, I feel like they're cracking down, fam. They're cracking down on authority. They just they want more cops, right? The Hawley Amendment. So supposedly that's a concurrent resolution, but like I think it still sets about the rules of like for the whatever. I don't want to get into it. Because I had a tweet about Bernie, liking the what was it?
The police. Like it was taking money. It was giving money to police.
No, it was taking money away from local offices if they defund the police. Taking federal money away from local offices if they defund the police.
Okay.
Anyway, shout out to Lucky Burrito and Leo.
Oh, duh, look at Leo.
Oh, Leo. Leo.
Oh my gosh. So many of our fams have like chihuahuas, right? Chihuahuas the leftist dog? I feel like they are. I feel like so many people have chihuahuas.
Maybe.
I don't know. Like so many or dogs. Yeah.
Good
Brownie.
graphic, Steve Cutler.
Steve Cutler, thank you so much.
I have some Instagram stuff we can go over real quick.
Yeah.
So, I saw this the other day. It was like, this is why you don't have healthcare. Not immigrants, not food stamps, this. So it's kind of like telling them right? So, look at this. What's going to make you even happier is that the Army told Congress they didn't need or want these, but Congress mandated them because the military-industrial complex wants tax money to build them. These were built and immediately decommissioned and stuck in this graveyard. Let me say it again so it really sinks in. These tanks were never going to be used. They were purposely built to be immediately taken back apart and thrown away so that the corporations that build parts for them can profit, and Congress mandated it. So there's a boneyard there, Tucson, Arizona. I'm like,
Tucson.
So Tucson, and I'm like, oh, so there's a boneyard of tanks and planes there, just not being used and stuff. And I'm like, I wonder what a radical proletariat could do with some tanks and some planes. I don't know.
Well, that one. Two, imagine if all that land was used to grow like vegetables and fruit and food and like build, housing and communities. Like, people think this is some sort of hippie shit. Like, this is it's possible. Look, just when they tell you there's no money for Medicare for all. That's why I get so mad at the incrementalists. We don't have the votes. Nancy Pelosi. Well, the path is through the ACA. We don't have the votes. You're regurgitating the same things that she's saying. Do you not realize that? So fuck the votes. Like, what do you mean? You have the resources. They're choosing not to use them on you. And that's all it is. You are a nuisance to them. They don't care about you. Working to run narrative manager for politicians who are lying and telling you the same thing that Nancy Pelosi is telling you, but with nicer words. Really, you're in the way. You're doing a disservice. If you don't want to do that, fine. Don't do it. Get out of the way. Oh, I forgot to bring up that Emma tweet, but
yeah,
go ahead.
Okay. Well, it would have been part of that segment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too late. Here's footage from East Asia. The North Korean government propaganda, what they called propaganda, talking about American reality TV shows. And then this page shared, and they're like, I will forever adore this video. You gotta listen to it. It's hilarious. So here. It's kind of already started, but...
Said to charge $150,000 to appear at parties. She even has a TV program called My New Best Friend Forever, where people compete to be her new best friend. Proof that anything in the West can be reproduced and commodified for profit. This is part of a trend in the West for what is called reality television. A type of freak show programming about talentless narcissists who like to talk about themselves and go shopping.
That's hilarious.
This is Miss Paris Hilton. This narcissistic parasite comes from a wealthy hotel family. She glorifies her opulent lifestyle without guilt and is said to charge $150,000 to appear at parties. She even has a TV program called My New Best Friend Forever, where people compete to be her new best friend. Proof that anything in the West can be reproduced and commodified for profit. This is part of a trend in the West for what is called reality television. A type of freak show programming about talentless narcissists who like to talk about themselves and go shopping.
Wow. I mean, are they lying? They didn't even get into the Kardashians.
Oh, I know. I don't know where. I don't even know where.
It must be older.
I don't know where this is from, but I don't know. I just saw it and I just thought it was hilarious.
That's hilarious
because like it's literally explaining like everything so clear.
But that's like it's true. That's why people in America are so like distracted. And now it's TikTok and all these people. Like if you ever want to go and realize and do a deep dive as to why America is the most propagandized country, it's through Hollywood and all of that. And all you have to do is go on TikTok or Snapchat and look at the things that are being advertised and the gossip columns. That's why people are so propagandized.
I also saw this and I'm like, holy shit. Yes. So basically, here's a little picture. It says they'll evict you, then convict you, right, with that new ordinance, right? Mm-hmm. Their only solution to homelessness is prison.
Right.
And then down here it says, if a state criminalizes houselessness while at the same time creating conditions where houselessness is unavoidable for many people, that means that houselessness and the punishment of it is a function, not a byproduct of that state.
Right.
So that's what's happening right now.
Right.
So this is it's a function. So they're doing it on purpose.
Right.
They're doing it on purpose.
Right.
So what why are they doing it on purpose? Because they want modern day slavery.
Yeah. Yeah. They do. They understand that there are limited resources and there are way less of us than there are of them. And so if they don't control a population that is extremely angry, dissatisfied, they're going to have they're going to be screwed. So they're going to exert control.
Right.
It's neo-feudalism.
It's crazy because that's what they're doing, because that's what happened in L.A. Like if you're not allowed to stand anywhere or have your tent or anything.
Yep.
In public land, so I
and
don't know. I just have to point that out.
I go back to the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, right? If the government isn't providing for you, if they're not fulfilling their duties, you have the right to abolish that government. You do. You have a right to overthrow it. That's literally if you want to be a patriot, that's literally in the Founding Fathers Declaration. You can find it. It literally says that. So it's not a radical idea. This is this is why the French have constantly been who we've looked to, even in writing the Constitution, because they've done this time and time again. We are not that old of a country. An empire, so to speak, right? Empires last about 300 years. We're nearing the end of that. So it's going to fall. Again, the question is who will come out on top, right? And these people, it's no longer about just the United States empire. The United States empire is not just here in the continental US. It's NATO, the West. All of these people are trying to exert their forces. And then you can call China an empire. I don't think China is an empire because they don't have military bases all over the world. China is a global superpower. There's a difference between an empire and a superpower. I think Evo Morales talked about this too recently when he was talking about, how China versus the United States, who's an empire and who's not. Obviously power corrupts, so any sort of type of superpower will have corruption. But what I'm saying is that when you're talking about the empire and what they need, they see us as a nuisance, and so they're going to criminalize poverty, which is what they're doing. And if it's impossible for you to get out of poverty, then you're going to end up in jail. And what do they do once you're in jail? They work you like a slave. We have the vast majority in California of the firefighters fighting these fires are prisoners. And they get told that they're going to be released earlier. And that's not always the case, actually. So, and they're paid slave wages to do this work, men and women. And that's what they want to get to the point where if you don't comply, if you don't follow everything, and if you somehow happen to be poor, you become a part of the prison industrial complex. And then so on and so forth. So until we have a society where everybody's compliant and nobody questions anything and you're happy with what you get, because otherwise you go into the gulag, the actual, like an actual shit, like non-propagandized prison. That's the reality where we're headed, which is why a lot of us are screaming off the top of our lungs, like, are you guys not seeing what we're seeing? Aren't you not seeing like everything we were talking about? We're heading in this direction. It's scary shit. Scary shit.
And lastly, I just saw this, and I'm like, from March for Medicare for All, and it says, I want you to cut the Pentagon budget and fund Medicare for All. Absolutely.
I want you to defund the Pentagon and fund Medicare for all. I mean, I look at all the things we could do if we just stay out of fucking people's business, you know? And I think, fam, I do not see a way forward that is not through revolution. I really do not see a way forward. And we do need, he's right. Daryl was right. We're not going to have the left. The left isn't big enough for that. We're going to have to join forces with the working class across the board in order to get anything we want.
Yeah.
Period. There's no way. You
Right.
can't. What? You're going to align with everybody who's just a progressive? That's it? Are you kidding me? Come on. Get your shit together.
No, yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, no, I agree, fam. I think it's only revolution. It's not going to happen electorally. Nobody in Congress is listening to us. Because right now the squad is just part of the rest of the Congress, right?
Yeah.
So it's either make them really uncomfortable, right, by tormenting their life, by protesting at their house every time they come and leave Congress, right? They have to be scared of us more than they're scared of the predator class. That's what it's going to take. And that's just can be done through protests.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's more radical ways which, can be taken that you've seen in past movements. And, I think I'm going today. I don't know when the event starts, but in the afternoon, apparently there's supposed to be a guillotine out in front of the city hall today. So I'm going to that. And I'm going to try and live stream about that and ask some questions. So stay tuned, fams.
Yeah, stay tuned. All right, fams, let me just read the last Super A's and we'll get on out of here. Conshari Kate, here in Nanaimo, we have a coalition of neighbors that teach kids to grow edible landscapes on neglected public spaces. Where is that, Kate? Aram, thank you for the Super Rate contribution. And Aram, thank you again. Hopefully for tomorrow and not needed today. Thank you all so much for your important focuses and narratives. You're going as good as it gets. Also, get an interview with Putin. At least a video feed. It shouldn't be that hard. Although a serious drawback is that any attempt to facilitate that would probably be used as a basis to spy on you and 2 degrees beyond you. Can you imagine?
They already spied. They're already spying on us.
They're already spying on us.
They hacked our shit. I'm telling you. Now I got to open up our computer and I'm telling you, they hacked our shit. I don't know what happened to our computer. It fucks up. Maybe it's because I'm using Zoom. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Steve's right. Get the hell out of Zoom. It's just so hard to find other things. But
I haven't done the research, so I'm gonna do the research now.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everybody on YouTubes. We love you guys. And Convo out. Check out Johnny if he goes on live stream. But we'll be back on Monday. See you soon. Bye, fams.
Peace.